今天是新的一天，是阳光灿烂的一天，让我们沐浴在美好的阳光里，在阳光下行走，享受这个美好生活的每一天。让我们享受美好生活吧。Learn more English to listen the story. 看看今天这个蓝天白云，白云已经散去，现在仅剩这种太阳，这个比较阳光的太阳。阳光明媚的日子呀，阳光明媚的每一天。
In 1929, when Martin Luther King was born in Atlanta, Georgia, most black people in America lived in the South. In fact,
外面怎么是有2个警车了？发生了什么？今天是感恩节，不会有什么变化吧？
Just like houses or land. In the past, many countries have used slaves. Hundreds of years ago, there were slaves in Rome and Athens. They worked on farms and in the houses of rich people. But they were not slaves forever. After some years, they became free men and women again.
阳光比较好的。
But in North and South America, slavery was different. In
阳光灿烂。
the 16th century, people from European countries like Britain, Spain, and Portugal began to move into North and South America. They cut down forests and cleared the land for farms. They needed men and women to work on their farms. Where could they find them? The answer was Africa. Men and women were taken from their homes in Africa and brought to North and South America to work on farms and on roads. From about 1500 to 1850, European ships took at least 10 million men and women from Africa to become slaves in the Americas. The ships were very full, and the men and women did not have enough food, water, or air. Hundreds of thousands of Africans never reached America. They died on the slave ships. When African slaves arrived in America, they were sold to white farmers. Often, people from the same family were sold to different owners and never saw each other again. Husbands lost their wives, and children were taken away from their mothers. In the south of the United States, the farms were very big. The farmers usually grew sugar or cotton. They needed slaves to do the hard work in the fields. The white farmers gave the slaves food, clothes, houses.
好。
Had to stay on the farm. They belonged to the farmer. When slaves ran away, they were usually caught and brought back to their owners. In 1791, a black slave named Toussaint Louverture led an army of slaves against French soldiers on the island of Haiti. Toussaint died in prison, but in 1804, Haiti became the first free black country. In Virginia, in 1831, a slave called Black Turner led slaves against their masters. He was not defeated, and Turner himself became American leaders, such as W.E.B. Du Bois, argued for a return to Africa. After 1808, it was again the law to bring slaves from Africa to the United States. The number of slaves in the South continued to grow. By 1860, there were more than 4 million slaves in the South. They were no longer Africans, but African Americans. They wanted to be free. When Americans wrote the Declaration of Independence in 1776, they said that men and women should be free and equal. But the men who wrote the Declaration owned slaves. How is this possible? This was a difficult question. By the 19th century, many black people had become Christians. They went to church on Sunday, just like their white owners. Blacks and whites thought that slavery was wrong. Britain ended the buying and selling of slaves in 1807. Many Northerners and they wanted it to stop all over the United States. Southern slave owners wanted to keep their slaves. They refused to free them, and they were ready to fight for their right to own slaves. The Southern states were ready to go to war with these rights. Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the United States in 1860.
Oh, yeah.
The North and South went to war. More than 180,000 black soldiers fought for the North. In 5 years of terrible fighting, more than 500,000 soldiers on both sides were killed. The North won the war, and slavery in the South ended in 1865. Now there were no more black slaves in America. But black people in the South did not have the same rights as white people. Blacks could not go to white schools, and there were very few schools for blacks. Blacks could not go to the same shops or restaurants as whites. When blacks did try to get their rights, whites often answered them with violence. Most whites in the South were angry that they had lost the war. They did not agree with the end of slavery or with equal rights for blacks. In 1867, a group of soldiers in the southern state of Georgia started a secret organization to fight against the Black Whites. This organization was the Ku Klux Klan. They wanted to frighten blacks and stop them from voting in elections. Klansmen dressed in white clothes would come into places so nobody could see who they were. Sometimes they took black people out of their homes and beat them or killed them. They also burned the schools, homes, and churches of black people. In the 1890s, more than 1,000 blacks were killed by whites in the South. Most Joe Louis was born into a poor black family in Alabama in 1914 and was taken to Detroit when he was 10 years old. In 1937, he became the world boxing champion. His greatest fight was against the German boxer Max